There it is. We're live, streaming across YouTube and Twitter, or X, I guess, and Twitch. We have the core team, Jason and Jack here, the two leads of the team. Excited to hear. Oh, hang on. I'm getting a whole bunch of echoing. I don't
You
see
sound
what tab
fine
it's
on my end, but I guess it's just for you.
Yeah.
Do you have the stream open somewhere? That's
Yeah, I tried to go ahead and mute everything. There we go. I found it. I had like 50 tabs open, and one of them was on there. Just us. The very discombobulating. Anyways, we've got all of the folks here. Jason and Jack, the two leads of the team. We got Column here showing off a whole bunch of stuff for RS Pack and Angular and a whole bunch of other stuff. Philip's here to represent Cloud and all the cool stuff we're doing over there. So it's going to be great. But let's jump right into it. Let me pull up our little agenda on the side here. But yeah, Jack, one of the big things I think we have coming up for 20.3 is changes to TypeScript projects. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I'll just mention the RFC again, in case people haven't seen it. We actually have the office hours every Thursday, and people have been chiming in. People have been chiming in on the RFC. Maybe we can link it in the stream or in the comments after. But basically, we launched the new TS support. So TypeScript support has been changed in NX20, but only for the non-stack or the TS only stack, right? So when you do create NX workspace, we opt you into NPM workspaces or PNPM or Yarn if you use those. And we also started using project references. So both of those combined is what we call the new setup or the TS solution setup. And the benefit there, again, as we discussed before in the previous stream and also in the RFC, is it allows TypeScript, the TypeScript language service, to actually understand how the projects relate to each other rather than treating the monorepo as one unit. It now understands there's several units within the monorepo that all talk to each other. And it helps with performance as well. Like when you open VS Code, some things take a long time because it's very CPU or memory intensive. Now that should be alleviated. Also, for VS Code, there's a long-standing issue where in a big monorepo, not all references are being picked up. So if you like have a function, you try to see who's all using that function, it'll find like 10, whereas there are like 500 applications. So there's an issue that's been open since 2020. We should be able to resolve it, at least for people using a new setup. We can eventually resolve it for everyone once people are migrated over. So that's a big change for 20.3. We'll extend that support to React Stack and Node Stack and Vue Stack. So that means when you create NX workspace, for now you still need to pass a -- workspaces flag when you do like create NX workspace. I believe that's mentioned here. If it's not, I'll update the RFC to mention that. And you can try the new setup. So it basically means if you use React, so whether that's plain React with create like a Vite bundler, or maybe Next.js or Remix or something else, you'll get a new setup as well. And there are some changes here that the RFC goes over. One of the main thing is how we link packages. So instead of having tsconfig paths in the tsconfig.base.json file at the root, we will no longer use that path as a source of truth. Instead, we'll link packages using the standard workspaces technology that all the package managers support. So for DXYs, it should be mostly the same, unless you use buildable libraries. And again, the RFC goes through it. If you use buildable libraries, currently with Vite and Webpack, you have a chance to opt out of pointing to the buildable or the build artifact. In the new setup, at least for now, because it's a little bit more complicated, you will be forced to go into what we call incremental builds, meaning if I have an app that points to a library that has a build target, you need to first build the library before you can consume it. And Also, when you update the library, it will not like hot module reload unless you build it again, and then it'll reload. So you don't have to stop your app server, but you do need to make sure you run that build. Some people have been using NX Watch to help with that. We'll have some changes, which I won't go into. There's a different RC about how we might be able to help that experience as well with what we call infinite tasks. But that's more of a future thing. For 20.3, we won't have any of that. So you just have to make sure you don't have buildable libraries if you don't need them, or just run NX Watch, and then you can pass in the project you want to watch, and then you can make sure you pass the, I forget the exact flag, it's something like also for dependent library or something. It's on the docs, or it's in the docs. So if you pass that flag, it'll run the target for the dependencies of the project you pass into. So if you have like a demo app, you can say like, NX Watch a project's demo, and then you pass like what dependencies as well or something. Then you can say like, every time those change, and run the build target again.
Awesome. Thanks, Jack. Let me go ahead and push back in here. Cool. So if you're watching now and you have any questions to follow up on this stuff, feel free to drop it in chat and we can highlight them and go along with it. But we've been over through like the RFCs here a couple times in our Discord office hours. So like Jack mentioned, definitely join us over there for that if you want more of the inside scoop on all this stuff, or just join the discussion on the RFC. So the TypeScript changes, are those are landing in 20.3, you mentioned, Jack?
So we are still using the old setup by default. To use a new setup for React, Vue, and Node, you have to pass the workspaces flag to say you want to use npm workspaces or whatever, and then we'll opt you into new experience. We're only doing this for now so we can go through a proper testing period, and then the plan is sometime in like mid-January we can say like, oh, things are looking stable, and we use it ourselves. So like in all of our repos we're using it, and we make sure we address any issues that may come up, and then we'll enable it.
Gotcha. And that'll become like the default without having to use
exactly. And I guess the other thing that's important to call out is this will not affect any of your existing workspaces. So all the generators, everything still works with the old setup. We're not changing any of that. We're not removing support. There's no deprecation, so you don't have to worry. I know some people have raised some concerns. You don't want to use it, you don't have to use it. But if you do want to use it, we'll also provide some documentation for how to migrate and things like that.
Cool. So this is just the -- workspaces flag on create NX workspace, correct?
Yes, we should make sure it's in the RFC and also in the docs.
Cool. Awesome.
It should already be in the docs, actually, because we auto-generate it, so we're good once we publish it.
Awesome. Cool. Well, let's move on to our SPAC changes. So Column, do you want to talk about those?
Yeah, so as part of NX 20.1, we moved our SPAC from labs into the main repo. So we promoted it to first-party plugin status. At the time, though, it still wasn't really on feature parity with our Webpack support, which made migrating from Webpack to our SPAC more difficult for people. So now we worked on getting it to feature parity, minus some small issues. So the RS Pack team doesn't recommend using Babel, for example, as a compiler. So SWC is used instead. So there'll be some minor differences there still, but it's mostly feature parity with Webpack, which should make migrating from Webpack builds to RS Pack and seeing a massive performance increase easier. And then we also very recently finished off the RS Build plugin package for NX, which brings RS Build support to React apps and Vue apps. And we can see a massive performance increase for building React there, with HMR speeds being incredibly fast as also. And it still uses RS Pack under the hood, but it gets the speed because it drops the whole Webpack compatibility layer and focuses purely on Rust and SWC plugins.
That's awesome. So I don't see it yet, the RS Build plugin here. But when 20.3 releases, we'll see that here in the Matrix as well.
Yep.
That's awesome. Cool. Yeah, we had a couple of talks with Zach Jackson about RS Pack and RS Build and the future of bundlers and the past of bundlers. So that was a very interesting conversation. It's awesome to see that we've got support in NX for RS Build already landing. So that's really cool. Thanks, Colin. Cool. Drop back in. Yeah, so we had some changes to NXConsole here as well. Jack, do you want to share your screen and we can look over some of those?
Sure. Let me see if I can find console.
Yeah.
Okay, I found it. Let me share. Hopefully the permission is correct.
It's always fun.
Share screen. Oh shoot. I might need to rejoin.
You're gonna have to cycle. Okay. We'll soft shoe until you get back.
Okay.
Cool.
Or maybe not. Let me see. Okay, yeah, I'll be right.
Cool. See you, Jack. Maybe while we're waiting,
another topic.
Yeah, Philip, maybe you'd like to jump in, talk about some cloud stuff while we're waiting for Jack to get back.
I would love to talk about some cloud stuff. We've got two big things to talk about. One is ready for you to go right now in production. Another one is in beta that you should definitely check out. Let me share my screen and we can get going on that.
Cool. Jack,
All
since you're
right.
just rejoining us, we're gonna go ahead and do cloud stuff, and we'll come back to you for console. in
Yeah,
just a
perfect.
second.
No worries.
All right. So number one column, your PR just failed, buddy. Like, get it together.
Yeah, I know.
Come on,
I
Colin.
think
But if you wanted to take a look at what might have changed in your PR to cause that failure, the new feature that we're showing off here is the affected project graph. So now just on every CI PE in NX Cloud, you have this new affected project graph tab, which will give you a visualization of the projects that were both touched and affected. So we've got a little guide down here for touched, meaning this project was actually changed as part of the PR, and affected simply meaning that it was affected by those changes. So maybe you didn't make a change directly to that package, but it depends on something that was actually touched. If we click on one of these, we can actually expand it so that we can see within sort of the grouping to be able to see the different packages that were affected in there. And if that's a bit too much, we can also start to exclude some of those projects to make the display a little bit cleaner. But this is something folks have been asking for a long time. So we're really happy that this is in and should help you understand a little bit more of, what's going on with my PR. Like, why is this task being run? Why is this project being built or tested or linted or something like that? So this has been available in production for a few weeks now. If you haven't seen it yet, definitely check it out on your next PR run. So that's exciting. You can use that right now. The next thing that we have introduced are... Go ahead.
Just real quick, Phil, we had a question from the chat. Stefan, hey, Stefan, we just saw you in Discord office hours, but he asked, are we seeing the same graph for local graph? Yes, we are. So if you're running your local graph, there's actually a button on the side that will let you collapse things. I believe they're sort of grouped by directory. Is that right, Phil? So yeah.
Yes, they're grouped by directory. I think that was introduced sometime in like NX19 that introduced the new composite graph that you should have access to there.
Yes.
One thing that we do have here is this touched feature is not available locally. This is only available on the CIPE graph here.
Yeah, and that makes sense because probably a lot of things are touched. I guess we could look at like the Git status to say which were touched.
Yeah.
That'd be, yeah. Anyways, but yeah, cool. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks. Yeah. Continue.
All right. So the other thing that we're really excited about is assignment rules. These are in beta. So do some testing and see how they impact you. But the gist of an assignment rule is when you're running on agents and you have you're running across multiple different sizes of agents, you may want to assign specific tasks to specific sizes of agents. This is a fairly common scenario of your build task really needs a pretty beefy machine behind it, especially like your production builds, but things like lint and unit tests don't need that sort of resource. And so in the past, you might have gotten stuck with some complex configuration that split things across multiple different sizes of machines, or you were just stuck with, yeah, we have to make all of our machines the biggest one, and we'll just sort of adjust there. Here now, you can give yourself a sort of just like a fleet of different sizes of agents, and then start to assign specific tasks to them. So in this particular example, for our app one project, whenever we build it in our production configuration, just like I was talking about, that production build that can require some larger resources, this is going to make sure that that task always runs on one of the large or medium that we have spun up here as part of our default. We have a lot of information in the documentation on how to make sure that you're doing this correctly, and can distribute things the way that you want. But this should give folks a lot more flexibility in terms of what sizes of agents they're able to use. Make sure that they're managing their costs and compute times, and still be able to get the performance that they want on particular tasks that need something different. We have dog food this extensively internally. This is our internal repo where you can see how we are setting up different distributions. Your assignment rules might not look this complex, but we do want to say, we have tested this pretty extensively, and it is ready for other folks to be using, even though we have that beta flag on it. It's just that the feature is still in development. So those are the big things that we want to talk about. As always, we're always making incremental improvements to the cloud experience overall. If you have hit any out of memory errors before with agents, you should definitely check back in, because we've made that experience a lot cleaner, to be able to give you a warning when things are out of memory, to be able to give you partial logs when an agent is shut down because of an out of memory error. All of those things are going to make managing your pipelines a lot easier, and diagnosing problems, because it's great when things work, but when they don't work, we also want to provide a great experience for you to be able to recover from whatever wasn't working there. The other thing that we've offered is better analytics. So previously you didn't have a lot of flexibility in terms of how much, what time period you were looking at in terms of your analytics for pipeline executions, runs, time saved. And now we give you a much broader range, in addition to a completely custom range for being able to look at that. So especially if you are trying to look at change over time, this should give you the ability to look into those analytics and actually be able to see how things are changing, improving over time. The last thing I'll bring up is especially if
is this saying we saved 43 days in the last week of computation?
yes,
right?
It is. Mm-hmm.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, honestly, like that's on the short end. If you look at some of our enterprise customers, some of them save literally over a year of computation time every single month.
Wow.
So we're small fry compared to some of our enterprise customers.
That's still awesome. Cool.
Last thing I'll bring up, if you haven't tried agents before, or you haven't tried cloud before, or you haven't tried it in a while, we've got more flexibility in our pricing now with our team plan. So this is going to allow you to pay per active contributor, with the first 5 being free. And I'll just give you a little bit more flexibility to be able to make sure that pricing meets your needs and that you can pay for any sort of overages that you want. So that's new pricing that we have introduced for new customers. Again, if you've ever been put off by any sort of pricing concerns before, take a look at the new team plan and see if it's a better fit for your organization now. Last call out is our blog is really popping off lately. Everything that I've talked about here has been talked about in the blog before. So if you're not used to checking our blog on a regular basis, we're really picking up the posting there. So make sure that you are checking that out as often as you can.
Awesome.
All right, that's all I got.
Thanks, Phil. Appreciate
Thank
man.
you.
All right, Jack, you want to try the
Actually,
console again?
this makes sense to talk about this after the cloud updates too, because this is a cloud-specific feature. So what you're looking at here is the NX repo, so the NX mono repo, and you'll see this cloud recent pipeline execution. And basically, what this is it looks at your recent PRs that you've opened. So I have this one that says do not merge because I use it just for this demo. But imagine it's a feature change. You get a notification down here that something failed. And I can say, oh, so while I'm working, I may have switched to a different branch too because I work, like we're all busy. We have like 5 branches at the same time. So I switch to a different branch, work on that feature for a bit. Oh, I get pinged. This format check failed. Oh, okay. So you can click on the result. Ooh, open a different window. Okay. So you see the result here, right? I can see exactly what failed. Oh, the README was not formatted. So I can go back, switch back to that branch, fix the README, push it again, and this will refresh with a new status. And then you'll get pinged again, whether it failed or it succeeded. So basically, if you're working on any large teams and maybe the CI pipeline run may take like 15 minutes or something, you probably switch over to something else. And it's good to know when something has happened so you can go back and address it rather than you going back to the browser and clicking refresh or going to like the GitHub PR and seeing what's going on there. So this supports like all the major Git platforms. Like this is using GitHub, but you can also see GitLab and stuff also work. The other thing is you can easily jump into the PR as well. Oops, it's open somewhere else. So if you expand this, oh, actually, maybe I'm wrong. I thought at one point we pointed to the PR. Okay, forget that. At some point I thought we pointed to the PR, but maybe we don't. For some
You
reason.
can get there easily from the CI pipeline screen, though.
That's true. So
So
here,
with,
when I
2
click on let
steps.
it open here, how do you get there?
I think
Here.
yeah.
And then I've never done it this way, so I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe the spoiler for next month.
Yeah.
In theory, you can figure it out based off of this and also the hash. But I thought at one point there was a button to go to that. But let's pretend it's not there, so because I don't see it. But you can easily jump into the relevant run
So
and then figure it out.
The CIP I'm looking at has an open on GitHub button right in the header. So I'm not sure why yours doesn't.
I think it may be because Jack was not in full screen mode in the browser. I think it may have cut off.
Oh, you think that's why?
It could be. Try full screening it, Jack. We'll see.
I go here.
No, if you go back into the actual run, and yeah, it should have been on the header there, which is Chore Musk, do not merge.
Okay, maybe my PR just sucks and it just doesn't link it.
Your PR removed the button.
I
That's
told
what
it
it
do
was.
not merge. So anyway, it should be.
I'm used to
there.
that button being there too, so I'm interested too. We should.
It's
bring
okay.
this
It's just
up.
me. My PR
Yeah.
is no good. Do not merge it.
Cool.
So
Super useful feature, though.
Yeah.
I use it a lot just to go to my CI pipeline. I always lose what tab it's on, so I'm one of those that have like 100 tabs open. And so I just open one more.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I don't even use VS Code, to be honest. Like I have VS Code open just so I can see that view.
really,
I have IntelliJ open somewhere else.
Are we bringing it to
VS Code is
IntelliJ?
here.
so
Yes.
yes.
But, not yet. So
Yes.
we do want people to try it, give feedback. We know it's already useful for us, but definitely try it on your team. Try out NX Cloud, and then if you have any feedback, let us know. We will bring it to IntelliJ soon. but we have a lot of things to work on. So
Right.
probably
So
in the next couple months.
Stefan asks here, so this is in regards to the
Yes.
the stuff for NXConsole.
I won't say anything, but because I know what endpoint it hits and I know how to authenticate it, I was like, maybe instead of opening VS Code, I can just write something in terminal to pull. But I don't know.
Yeah.
Use VS Code.
No promises yet, but it sounds like
I don't think
Or
we're
cursor.
gonna create
VS
like
Code
a
or cursor.
NeoVim plugin, but
Yeah.
if you can reverse engineer it based off of the console code, which is open source, I guess technically, just don't spam us because we don't want that.
Right. We have a question here from Jayco, late to the party. Any updates regarding NX release and release groups in this update? I don't think specifically there's any changes to NX release. Maybe Jason. Yeah, Jason saying his head. I do know
we've done some bug fixes. We have some plans to update how versioning works in NX release, but that'll be coming early next year.
Awesome. I do know that Yuri's course on NX release will be coming out soon. So that'll be cool when that lands. But yeah, cool. Next up, we wanted to talk about Angular 19. So Colin, what's up with Angular 19?
Yeah, so Angular 19 released in November, and we upgraded our support. So we will now generate new applications with Angular 19. You can migrate to Angular 19 from an Angular 18 or less version. But as part of doing that, we also updated our LTS support. So we no longer support Angular 16 officially on the latest version of NX. So it's just to bear that in mind too. If you're still on Angular 16 and you want to migrate to NX 20, just be aware that LTS support means that we will no longer support Angular 16.
Cool. Do you know offhand, Colin, were there a lot of breaking changes going from 18 to 19? And like, are those handled with NX Migrate?
I don't think there was a lot of breaking changes, but there are a fair number of migrations, and we have all of them listed as part of the migration path.
Cool. Awesome.
Well, on
Sweet.
that topic, do we want to mention React 19 as well? I just realized the two versions matched.
Yeah.
19 and 19.
Yeah.
We did look at it. We just couldn't finish that support. So, Colin, do you want to?
Yeah, I can mention some of the challenges we ran into. So it's mostly related to like third-party dependencies and how they haven't upgraded to support Angular 19 themselves. So it runs into certain issues, especially around unit testing solutions, and with NX 15 or not NX, sorry, Next 15.1 and its stability with React 19. So the ecosystem at the moment still seems to be in a state of everybody scrambling to try to support React 19 stably, and it has left it in a situation where we can't guarantee that if you're to migrate to React 19 that everything's going to work correctly. So we're holding off on that migration for now.
Yeah, we will be keeping an eye on it, but it shouldn't block anyone from trying it themselves. You just have to make sure all your third-party dependencies line up and there's no issues there. And we were never planning to upgrade people automatically, so the plan is that people who are still on 18 or older continue to do that. Our generators shouldn't generate anything that's incompatible with either versions, and then new workspaces will use 19, at least whenever the third-party plugins or packages are updated.
Yeah, that's the plan. And the React team have released a bunch of code mods to help that migration path for anybody that wants to try it out themselves. So just to be aware of that as well.
Very cool. It's almost unfortunate when we released Project Crystal, we changed our strategy of like doing the two majors every year, because if we had all three of us, like React, Angular, and NX could all have been on version 19 for a brilliant shining moment, and we ruined it.
And now we missed it. I blame Victor. Someone.
Wow. Dang. Cool. Well, let's turn over to Jason now, because the last couple topics we wanted to talk about. well, Jason, I think, worked on the most. So one of them here, Jason, is core performance improvements. So what happened there, and what can people expect to see different for version 20.3?
Yeah, over like the past many months, we've addressed a lot of the kind of glaring issues with introducing plugins and graph plugins. And over the last, recent months, we've kind of narrowed down our focus into the more kind of hidden parts. So one of those is performance. Noticeably, like we like had some clients move over to using the Project Crystal. They had a setup that was pretty different from ours in the sense that they used a lot of TypeScript like custom plugins, which we love. Um, and they have great ideas for them, but we realized that because we don't ourselves have too many like fully custom I mean, we write all of our plugins, so we're using them, but they're pulled in as like normal node modules. That performance we found to be kind of degraded. So we addressed that. I think we basically, I don't have a number on it, but loading those plugins was taking a long time and a lot of memory on some machines. So we dug into why that is, and we've improved it dramatically. So depending on how much you use those plugins and just plugins in general, there will be some noticeable speed improvements. Another thing is kind of being more mindful of how much memory that NX is using up, and like if there are any processes that are being orphaned. So we've taken a fine tooth comb through those and to ensure that does not happen. The thing that we're implementing soon, you'll see in 20.3, is that we will be implementing like spinners that show up if project graph calculation takes too much time. So before project graph calculation used to be pretty zippy, but now it's like opened up kind of more avenues for it to slow down, which doesn't mean like it's always going to be slow, but in the case that it is, we're finding that it's confusing. Like your command will just look like it's not running. And we noticed that, so we're implementing spinners that will show up locally. So if, with you won't see nothing. You'll see a spinner that will be clear and like, oh, like the project graph is taking some time. And then after that, it should be cached and be faster. It's also going to be on CI. It's not going to be a spinner. It's going to be a message so that like if you're looking at your CI pipelines and you're wondering, my tasks ran in 5 minutes, but I see it took 6 minutes for this command in CI, you will be able to kind of, you'll see a message in CI that says, yeah, like we're spending some time calculating the graph and we're going to run your tasks soon. And so it'll be more obvious what those are. So those are some of the improvements that we've been doing there. That's not the end of it. We are still looking down some other optimizations and to make everything even faster. But yeah, like the last few months, now that we've squashed a lot of the glaring issues, we've moved on to more of the performance issues and to get it to where we want it to be. Along that vein, we'll also be adding some benchmarks to kind of our test suites and also the NX repo, so that we keep this stuff fast. We, in hindsight, we should have found these sooner. We found like as soon as we did find these, we worked to address them. But like in the future, we're going to be putting other processes in place so that we can find these issues sooner and to have them addressed before they affect real users. That is about it on the updates for the core performance. There's been a lot of stuff in there, but to be honest, it should be pretty unnoticeable, other than the fact that everything will get faster.
Cool.
And to be fair, some of the plugin calculation, like graph calculation slowness, may not be NX or NX plugin itself. So, for example, Grado could be downloading a lot of jars and stuff, right? So you're in the middle of that. It's going to take a minute, let's say. So it's not NX is slow. It's that Gradle has to download like, I don't know, 10 gigabytes of jar files.
Yeah.
Now at least you'll know what's going on.
Well, the nature of the like the create nodes API too, like especially if you're writing custom plugins, you can be doing anything in there. So whatever that is, it's kind of like that's not necessarily the framework being slow. That's just, you're making a network call, or there's latency introduced via that. So it's a potential way for these things to come in. But
yeah, when I say like
sorry,
core
can I quickly
performance,
jump on?
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we also noticed with the project graph creation is that it will error, and it'll tell you to run reset and things like that, and the error itself is never really surfaced. And they hint on one of the console things that Jack was talking about. I have shared my screen. Is that inside NX code, or sorry, VS code, we can actually see the error itself, and it's just a good way of like being able to figure out why the project graph hasn't been created. It was actually Max who showed me this recently, so it's a good way to figure it out and be able to actually solve that problem. So we open this now, we can see there's no errors anymore.
Yep, that's another part of it. Kind of surfacing these errors. They'll also be surfaced more kind of transparently in your terminal as well. So if there's a project graph error in there, currently it makes you run with verbose, but that is going to be kind of polished up as well in the coming months. We're also taking a holistic look at it. So as Jack mentioned, like some of it's not like the core of NX that's slow, but it is like some plugins that are taking longer than others. And right now it's pretty hard to diagnose which one it is, because it's just like the whole project graph takes a long time. But we've been digging into which ones are slow. So not to mean that like don't use them, but like we're working to make them faster. So Gradle in particular, we have some speed improvements coming for Gradle. Jest is another one of them, and we're also looking into ESLint. So we're taking a more holistic look at it to see like how normal projects are calculating the project graph and what can be sped up, both like infrastructure wise and from the plugin level.
Awesome. Cool. We did have a question in chat here from Matt regarding NX release. So will there be any generators to get this set up in a packages workspace? So I believe this is for NX release. Let's say we have the packages preset, I believe. So the idea would be, is there a way to like generate these things so that each package, I guess, could have their own, could be like integrated with NX release?
So we do have the recipes on NX.dev. That should.
We have recipes, and actually, if you're in a packages workspace with public packages, we actually already have a target set up for you on your projects, and you might just not know that they're there. We don't have any plans currently to kind of like generate the command for you. We find that like release is a pretty, like every organization has their own way of doing releases, and we've stayed kind of not opinionated on how a release is done. We've gone the other way of like supporting all of the ways that you would want to use or you would want to release your projects. So yeah, just by having the NXJS plugin, yes, suspicious there.
What's suspicious, Jason?
I'm not sure you need that. I'm actually pretty sure you don't need that. Is that just me, or am I hallucinating, Jack?
No, I'm pretty sure the JS one's needed.
Okay, ignore me. JS one's needed. Anyways, like you should already have targets in there. What we don't provide for you is kind of like the way to release. So like the core way of like publish this package to npm, like that is already on your projects. but we don't say like, oh, like everything needs to be at the same version all the time. We allow for independent releases and stuff like that. So because of the many ways that we do support that you can release your packages, we don't have the one way that we generate out of the box.
Right. And I think that a lot of that fits in with like our general mandate now, which is like for NX to be a way of not instilling our own opinions, but allowing people to put their opinions into their workspace. So if you have an opinion on how you want your releases to go or how your versioning to go, you can configure that. We'll support that, but we won't be saying this is the golden way, always do this. So
You'll see like this guide that you have pulled up
Mhm.
is kind of like the overview. And then on the
Right.
left side, there are like tons and tons of guides of how to do
Yeah.
things kind of the way that you want to.
Right. So this is just on nx.dev, and on the right hand side under recipes, there's a whole section here for an NX release. Like Jason said, the text is a little small on my screen, but I promise it's fine normally. But yeah, a lot of guides here on doing anything you'd want to do here with NX release. I think that James and I think Austin was working on this too. I think they did a really good job with this. Me and James actually had last week like a 2-hour live stream where we were going through a lot of just getting NX release set up in a real mono repo, and yeah, it was really great, and we were able to get to the desired outcome pretty quickly, pretty easily. Felt very smooth compared to just trying to roll everything ourselves. So that was great.
I think we should mention maybe the file-based one again. It released a while ago, but in case people missed it, that way you can have like commits or PRs that add a file to describe the commit or what should go into the release. And then if your team likes to do it that way, which is kind of similar to changelog, now NX supports that as well. So if you were blocked on using release due to that before, that's been released, I think, in 19.8 or something. I can't remember. It's in the blog somewhere.
So file-based
like
versioning is actually what me and James set up on the live stream too. So it was really great to be able to get that in. I've always wanted something that looked a lot like this and never had it. It was always based off like git commit history, which is fine, I guess, normally, but I much prefer this approach. So yeah, but getting that set up was very painless and very straightforward. I think it made a lot of sense. So definitely a really cool feature to show. Cool. Let's go ahead and move on. I think this is the last thing we have on the docket. So if there's anyone out there with any more questions for the team, go ahead and drop them in now. But Jason, I think the last thing we have here is just talking about updates to PowerPack. What do we have there for 20.3?
It's not linked to 20.3, but we have released a few features for PowerPack in the last few months. So we've added support for Azure and also Google Cloud Storage. So before we released with only S3 storage, now you can use Google Cloud Storage and Azure. The other thing that you can use is MinIO or like other services like it, which give you like a S3 compatible file storage. So you can also hook up things like MinIO or local stack and things like that. So that is a that'll enable more people to use PowerPack for caching. The other thing that we've done is we've allowed people to authenticate via NX Cloud. And this is important for open source repos that are looking to use PowerPack. So basically, as an open source project, you can apply for an open source license for NX Cloud. And through that license, you will also be able to have PowerPack enabled for you. And you won't need to commit your license to your repo anymore. You can like it'll make a request over to NX Cloud and use your NX Cloud organization as the provider for your license. So nothing will get committed to your repo. It'll just, I guess, dynamically when you need it, fetch your PowerPack license there. So that's good for either open source repos, like I said, but also for enterprise customers of ours. So if you are an enterprise customer and you want to utilize PowerPack, you can reach out to your DPE and we'll set you up with a PowerPack license. And the other thing that we did, which may or may not matter to a lot of people, is for conformance. We got a lot of requests from enterprises about conformance because they want to enforce rules on their workspace, their organizations, and unfortunately, a lot of them were not on NX20 or 19.8. So we've actually made it backwards compatible with NX18. So if you are on NX18, you can now also use conformance. I will say, like, the cache parts of PowerPack are not usable on NX like 18. That one you would have to upgrade to NX19 or 24. But yes, it is now possible to use conformance on NX18.
Cool. Jason, just for folks who may be lacking the context, what exactly is NX Conformance?
So NX Conformance allows you to write rules that get enforced. So it's kind of like a language agnostic linter, maybe like not language related at all. And you can write a rule. So right now we have a rule to calculate the project graph for our internal repo in under 3 seconds for like a cold build. So like those are the type of things that you can write here. There's also like module boundaries, the same thing that we've had for a long time in our ESLint rule. It doesn't really work too well if you want to enforce module boundaries between like Java projects and JavaScript projects. So with the NX PowerPack Conformance, you can write rules that allow you to kind of restrict the dependencies from Java projects on, say, JS projects or vice versa and things like that. So if you haven't heard about it before, visit the page that Zach is showing on screen. You should drop these links in chat.
Yeah,
This,
I'll go ahead
this
and
in the
drop it
release
in.
one. So yeah, organizations that we've been working with are really eager to use this, so we decided to make it backwards compatible.
Awesome.
And that's about it for PowerPack. The other feedback that we've gotten that we have not yet addressed, but we are going to soon, is that the caches do not work locally at the moment. And we did that because we wanted to make sure that things are safe when it's being used locally. So, I mean, when it's all in CI and like CI is writing to the caches, you're relatively certain that like everything being uploaded to the cache is safe. With enabling it to be used on people's local machines, like you have much less visibility into exactly what is being uploaded into the cache and stuff like that. So we needed to kind of go through the same security considerations that we have for NX Cloud and to make it relatively safe to use the PowerPack caches locally. If you do want like all of the safety features and the bells and whistles of like storing your cache, NX Cloud will still remain to be like the way that is the safest, the like best. Comes with other features as well, such as agents and many other features. So, I mean, all the cool stuff that Philip showed today is not available via PowerPack, but we are kind of bringing in our expertise from developing NX Cloud into PowerPack to make it kind of useful for everybody, or make it more useful for everybody.
Awesome. Sweet. Well, that's all that we had on the docket, I believe, for today. So maybe because we have some time left, maybe we could go through and ask folks what they're looking forward to most in 2025 from NX. Maybe starting with you, Jason.
Wait, sorry, could you repeat that?
What are you looking forward to most from NX in 2025?
What am I looking forward to the most?
I
We
know my
published a
answer.
we
but
published a roadmap actually. I don't know if we actually covered that.
yeah, let me find that. I'll
So
put it up on screen.
if you could pull that up, a lot of it is going to be about the TypeScript references. As Jack already started talking about, we've already been kind of going down this road, and I think it'll make NX a lot simpler for people to pick up. It'll be a lot more idiomatic for other workspaces to pick up as well. So yeah, we're looking forward to that. Um, Also, there's going to be a lot of things that we'll be looking to do in 2025 in terms of backend or just like our end-to-end experience for developers. So right now we still recognize that NX, it does have support for backends, but we haven't really we've only scratched the surface of what we want to achieve for backend development. So we're going to be expanding our Node kind of support and also our Java support. Um, those are two things. As part of that, as a big part of that, we have a RFC that's live right now, which is our Infinite Tasks RFC. You might also know it by its former name of sidecars. And these are basically long-running tasks that never end unless you tell it to. So things like starting up your front-end server or back-end server, or like even starting up a local registry to kind of test your packages. All of those things kind of like you start, and then until you say that they end, they'll just keep going. And for now, you cannot depend on those tasks. So if you are running end-to-end tasks, you need to start a server. We have it currently implemented as part of the test runner configuration, but we're going to be moving some of it into NX itself. So we can tell NX, hey, I'm going to be running some playwright tests, and in order for those tests to run, I want to use a server, like a different serve task. So that's one of the example use cases, but also like for a front-end server to depend on a back-end server. Like if you just want to say, whenever I start up my marketing application, I need to start up my login backend. This will be useful for that as well. So this is one of the things that we will be looking to get started on in early 2025. But it builds into the theme of being more of an end-to-end experience for everyone. Release is another part of it, but just as a broad stroke of our vision for NX in 2025, I would say being more idiomatic, being simpler, and being more kind of end-to-end encapsulating is what I'm looking forward to.
This was actually my answer for what I'm looking forward to most in 2025 is the Infinite Tasks support coming in. There's just so many places where it seems like it would be so helpful. Like one of them, like you said, just publishing to a local registry before running end-to-end tests. Another one that James and I hit was just like publishing, not for an end-to-end test, but publishing to a registry while we're just working on it. And it's always very nerve-wracking, I guess, when you hit that publish command, because you don't want it to actually go out in a clearly broken state. You just want to see, like, will this piece work? And just having that manual thing of, well, let's make sure we're running Verdaccio versus making sure the task is dependent on it. So the tooling can manage that, and that's something we don't need to worry about with our inefficient human brains. That's something I'm definitely looking forward to on a lot of different fronts. So that's really cool. Jack,
Yeah.
what's your thing for 2025? Is there any one of these that stood out to you the most?
No, I wrote the roadmap. I'm not excited. No, I'm joking.
You have no
I think
favorite children.
To kind of expand on what you and Jason have already kind of mentioned, we put a lot of like building blocks this year. So like Project Crystal, a lot of things that we're doing on different plugins. I think 2025, I'm looking forward to having everything kind of come together, because we always had like this discrepancy between what we think is the best experience for developers and giving people flexibility to do what they want. And moving forward, we're saying like we could actually bring you back into like what we used to call the integrated experience, which is like we set up all these different kind of tooling for you, things work and they integrate well together. We're bringing that so the vast majority of people should be able to use it, as opposed to like, oh no, only like I don't know the numbers, like 60% of users will use those integrated features versus like the 40% you're kind of on your own. So we're tying everything back together, and especially the node support, which I think a lot of the stuff that we've been doing also ties into, like all the infinite task, the things we're doing TS references, like those all feed into it. Even the release stuff, we voice that it could be flexible enough to also support releasing your apps, right? Like that should all go together. I think I'm very excited to see the stuff we've been working on for months actually come together and help people out. So, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to, the integration of everything.
Yes, all of them coming together.
I guess one more thing, and maybe I should have mentioned, but we also got some feedback about migrations, which I think migration works well. And we generally have like pretty good migrations that we write, but some people have given feedback they don't know exactly what the migrations do. So we have talked about like ways we can address it. So one is like maybe a console feature that can have like a better UI around it, more docs that show like different examples for what you expect before and after. So I also am looking forward to that, just because I know people have talked about it for a while. So now we're actually committed to addressing it.
Awesome. Column, what are you looking forward to most 2025? I imagine it's going to have something to do with Module Federation, but that's just a guess.
I wonder what makes you think that. Actually, I'm quite excited about the new terminal UI that we could potentially be working on. I think it's about time there's been a refresh there. And as mentioned actually in the chat, currently Windows 11 had some issues where prompt windows can just keep popping up, and I would like to see if the new terminal UI might solve that as well. But just in general, I feel like a new terminal UI would be very useful when we consider how often we're running tasks in parallel and how we could change that kind of DX for the users that are using NX, especially in a more polyglot setup where there is like backend servers and databases and things like that all spun up. And yeah, I think it'd be pretty cool to see what we could do with that.
Yeah, that would definitely be awesome. Philip, anything can you give us some insight to cloud for 2025?
Ooh,
what are you looking forward to most though?
I've got our project board open in the background and I'm looking through it and I'm like, ooh, I can't talk about that yet. But here's what I can say. Number one, if you're using GitHub, which you're probably using GitHub, that integration is going to continue to get tighter and tighter and better over time. But if you're not using GitHub, if you're using some other VCS provider, maybe keep an eye out in 2025 for some support coming down the road there. That's really exciting. We're always trying to support just like a wider variety of different environments and contexts that folks are working in to be able to enable cloud itself in addition to agents. So that is just going to continue to get better over time. Keep your eyes open.
Awesome. We're coming towards the end of our time. I did want to hit one question here from Andrew. Is there any way, and if not, I plan to support type modules in the root package.json file? I believe
this could be answered in many ways. So
yeah,
one is I think one of the long-standing issues, which will be fixed in 20.3, is a lot of the configuration we generate when you run like an app or a lib generator. We generate a .js file, and then because of no resolution, it'll look at the closest package.json, which if you don't have one, it'll go to root, see that the type is module, and then it'll be like, oh, this .js file is CSM, even though we generate as common.js, and then things will just blow up. So those things have been fixed. So the ones that we know of, like ESLint is one, rollup is the other one. We modified it, so now it actually generates with a proper extension like .cjs. It's also like I guess a larger question of like if you have type modules we could detect it and like say we can generate ESLint dot MJS, for example, which we currently do not. But that's also been planned. That's the thing we should do. It's just like there's so many ways we can take this. But I think the short answer is the generator should work no matter what you set as a type. But moving forward, we can expand the support to maybe be smarter. Like if we know you're using ESM, we shouldn't be generating common JS configurations for you. I hope that answers the question.
Sweet. Cool. And yeah, we have some other conversation going back and forth about maybe some issues with Windows 11. So future app, if you're listening, drop us like either come through on the Discord and we can try to help you out, or if it's a legitimate bug, we can file it as an issue on the GitHub so we can get that fixed. It seems like it's maybe more with NXConsole than NX itself, just from the conversation here. But yeah, we can hit that some other time. But gentlemen, thank you all for joining. I'm looking forward to 2025. Really excited for 20.3. And Jason, any insight as to when this is actually going to drop? Do we have a timeline?
In time for the holidays. How about that?
Sounds good. That was the thing on my Christmas list. That was at the top of my list was NX 20.3. So
you're saying Jason is Santa?
Yes, essentially.
Wow. Also, like we should encourage people to come on the office hour. I think it's been pretty productive. People are not aware.
Yeah, I've really been enjoying it recently. I think we've had 4 now. But yeah, I'll throw in a link to the Discord or just a general invite. But we have a channel there that's just called like questions for office hours. So at any point you can feel free to ask questions of the community. We won't promise we'll answer them, but we do monitor the Discord. So you can drop your questions there at any time. But if there's something you want to bring in front of the team, you can drop them into that questions for office hours and we'll hit them. You can also just show up for office hours, and we've had some interesting folks show up there and have some interesting questions. And it's a good way, I think, of potentially just cross-pollinating across organizations and teams. Just what are the problems you're facing? How can NX help with them? All that kind of stuff. So yeah, on that note, and thanks, Matt. Same to you. Hope everyone has a great end to their 2024, and we'll look forward to seeing y'all in 2025. So peace. Bye, y'all.